So, Robbie, how are you finding the market in display world?
Oh, great question. A lot of people are coming in with probably a bit more knowledge about finance now, and then they've come in, they've spoken to a broker already, or they understand there's new guarantee schemes out on the market.
So what do you know about the home loan guarantor scheme? What do you know about it?
The best thing I know, and it sort of helps me preempt putting a deal together, house and land needs to settle at the same time.
Really good point. So in my understanding of the home loan guarantor scheme is obviously there's some eligibility. So key thing for me is great initiative from the government. They've sort of launched this initiative, which basically to apply or to be eligible, you need to be 18 years of age. Need to be an Australian resident or permanent resident. What I find really interesting is you can be a first home buyer or not have owned a home for 10 years, which I think that's really important as well. The other really important thing about it is it can be on a new build or can also be on established, which is a key difference. So a really great initiative from the government, but there are some criteria. So if you're buying established, it's pretty straightforward. But if you are buying in terms of house and land, there are some criteria in this market that can make it actually hard to access, which I don't think a lot of the first-time buyers are actually across, which, as you mentioned, you have to do as house and land. The interesting point, I think, Robbie, too, was that the government has launched it as you can buy the land first and then enter into a build contract within 12 months of settling. But most banks will want you to do it as house and land. So it can be tricky. Absolutely. It's a good point.
And that's where, again, you need the right builder as well, if you've got a chance of making that work, because there's some builders out there that can take a little bit longer pre-construction, and in order for this deal to be together, again, the timeframes need to add up to what's in the land contract as well. And that's where you can get a little bit tricky making a deal work or finding a right block of land now.
Yeah, and I think that raises a good point. You really need to probably speak to your builder as well as just going off and buying some land, because I think that's where I'm finding some challenges is people have bought some land thinking they can do the home loan guarantor scheme. Then they speak to the builder and the builder goes, well, actually, we can't actually deliver you the build contract before the land settles, which then makes you ineligible to actually use that product. So that's a really critical part. So just a bit of a note to watch out if you're going into the marketplace, utilising the scheme. Best thing would be to speak to your builder first and say, hey, can you do this? Or when you're buying the land, can I organise finance subject to finance for house and land is probably a critical question to ask. Yep. It's a very good point.
Yep.
Excellent.
Next question we normally get from buyers, do you customise homes?
And look, again, really easy answer is, the short answer is yes, but for some builders it could be no. And I think really when we're talking customisation, it really is not all builders work in that space. So for me, if you really want to go down the path of customisation, really looking at builders that specialise in that space versus some builders don't really specialise in customised builds. That's a builder-specific question, I think.
And that's the other point as well. Like you said, some builders just do their own set ways of customising as well. We keep design options on our website, so we've got a bit of an idea of what you can do. And again, there's some other builders that just straight up know they don't want to change around floor plans.
A good point. I think that's where Metricon have been really good, and looking at the market moving forward is that some people do want price, which is really important. And we know that if you're looking for an affordable builder, making more changes than customising, you start to lose those efficiencies. So what Metricon and ABC have done, which I think is really fantastic, is already come up with some pre-designed, standard design options, which allow the customer to go, hey, I like that house, but maybe I want to add an extra bedroom, or maybe I want to reconfigure the living space. We may have a design option that allows you to already do that. And so you're going to get the efficiencies of cost because we've already designed it for you. So it's a great thing.
Another question, how much does a house cost?
I don't know about you, Robbie, but how many times do you get that question?
Every day.
And it's a really difficult one to answer. And I've been in the industry for a while, and I think every building consultant will probably say to you that's the number one question that they get. My sort of pushback is that the right question to be asking a building consultant. And in my time in doing the role, I think it's probably the easiest one to ask,
yes,
but it's probably not the best one to be asking. How do you deal with that question when someone asks you that price?
So when someone comes to me and says how much a house costs, I break it down into sections. So again, I can refer them to the website, what we've got with base prices or where it starts. And then we go through what's included and what you need to do next to break it down. I also ask, what do they want in a home? Because again, if you say a certain number and then you go through it and it's not what they want, well, they're probably going to switch off straight away. The next part, site works, we've got to talk about that because that can vary from different locations. and then where you're actually going to build it in terms of you're building an estate. Do you need to add extras to the homes, like design guidelines, to complete the home as well?
Yeah, exactly right. So there's some things that can impact the cost of the build. For me, when I get that question, I sort of answer that question with a bunch of questions, and that sort of really quickly allows me to work out where the client is at that point. So for me, my question to what's the price of building a single garage home, the first question I have is, what's your budget? Then that can really set us apart and say, well, because at Metricon we've got different products that suit very different clients. So the first one for me is, what's your actual budget to build? Very quickly, if someone says to me, my budget's $300,000 for a build, and they want to know about double story, very quickly that takes double story off the card. So for me, step one would be, what's your actual budget? Second thing was, do you actually have land? And so a lot of the times we get the question, what's the cost to build? And they don't even have the land yet. So for me, going back to what you said, is if you've got some land in, say, Mount Barker and some land in Matapara, the cost to build on those blocks of land can be very different, or if you're building in a particular estate. So what's your budget? Do you already have the land? And then the third part to really, once you've got those two things in order, is what are you trying to achieve? Do you want a custom build? We spoke about customization, or do you want a cost-effective build? So very quickly we can work out, if you're looking for a cost-effective build, then you probably want to start looking at builders that work in that space. If you want a customized build, then you probably need looking at builders in that space. And then once you've done that, for me, I think it's about research. Go out, have a look online, speak to people that have built with those particular builders. Look at what are some of the things you want, because not all builders do the same thing. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in the marketplace, is that all builders are the same, and they're not. So if you go in with that wrong expectation, you could actually choose the builder that's not actually the right builder for you, and that can affect the price as well.
And also understanding who your builder is. They're marketed at different demographics. Of course, someone like Australian Building Company, we're aimed at the first home buyers. We're not going to put all the gold taps in. We're not going to put the full height tiling in. We're not going to put all the expenses that your second homeowner would have in their home. We can still do those things, but upfront standard, we don't include them.
Absolutely. And I think also too, what we're seeing is a real shift in the marketplace now, where allotment sizes are getting smaller. Certain designs only fit on certain blocks. So now what I'm really starting to see now is really more than ever in the marketplace is builders going, hey, we specialize in these 2 or 3 things. And so if you've gone and bought a block of land and you want to use a particular builder, if that builder doesn't have a product or can't build on that particular block of land, then you've just ruled that builder out. So for me, I think it really comes down to do your homework, ask questions, get your finances in order, make sure you've got some land, maybe speak to a couple of builders that you're interested in before, and make sure that they can do the things that they want, and maybe make a time to actually go and see them. Trying to make a phone call and ring 10 builders to get a price is probably the worst question you can ask, because you're not going to get the right answer.
Well, you might get an answer, but who's correct and who's wrong? And that's where all builders are going to be completely different with their answers as well.
And also the building consultant, I think that's really important as well. So you might be in the marketplace looking for a builder, but not every building consultant is the same as well. And some building consultants will specialise in certain things as well. So referrals, get recommendations, speak to people, get onto product review. Try and do your homework beforehand. Try and limit it to maybe 2 or 3 builders that you're interested in, and then make the time to go out and see them. See the display homes, speak to some building consultants, speak to some people that have probably built with them in the past to get an idea, because ultimately the price is going to be the price. We're in a very competitive market. Builders just can't charge you more money for the sake of it. They can't rip you off for the sake of it. They're all very competitive in this space. So don't be too worried about price. Be more worried about, is this the house that I want? Is this the builder that I want to work with? I think that's more important.
Another thing as well, when you walk through a display village, builders have other designs as well. It's not just the house that you see, that's all they can do. Always ask the question, have you got other designs? What else are you looking for as a buyer? Because if you see something on display, you may not like that, but that builder might have other options for you as well.
And display, that's always a trick too, isn't it? How much is this display? How much does it cost to build this home? And typically some builders will display, like Metricon does, we display not only for design, but also to give you ideas of some of the things you can do. Would you build and do everything in that display home? More than likely not. So it's really about understanding what are the things that are important to me, and what are the costs to add those things to my home. And sometimes there's more cost-effective ways of doing things. You can actually get the look without spending the money as well. So having those conversations up front can help you to understand what the costs are going to be.
Over the last 24 months, or even just after COVID, what have you seen to in Adelaide's market?
I think there's a bit of a pre-COVID sort of understanding and post-COVID understanding. I think pre-COVID you could pretty much predict what the market was going to do, and it's a pretty stable market, and it was quite easy, and we had plenty of time to make decisions. I think pre-COVID, literally every year. If you review every year is new. So it's really hard, I think, as a building consultant or a consumer to really be able to make decisions because every year has been so different. The market's been extremely hot for a very long period of time. But I've got some simple rules in that space. And for me, the simple rule is if you're a first home buyer, if you don't own a property, the best time to get in is as soon as you can, and try not to get too much into the hype of things. I think when you start to looking at your second home or if you're looking to invest, I think that becomes very different. You're going to have to look at different market forces. But if you don't own a home, the best time to build is now. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like when someone wants to wait. First of all, what are you waiting for? And do you think that things may change moving forward as well in terms of pricing or availability?
Yeah. Really good point about the waiting piece. And I think what people miss when they're thinking about, I'll just wait, is they're sort of waiting for a dip in the market. But in reality, historically over time, the cost of the house and the cost of the land over time keeps going up. So in reality, it doesn't matter what the house is worth or what it's going to sell for, the cost is always going to be more. So that's what people really need to factor in is if I buy today, it's always going to be cheaper than if I buy in 12, 24 or 36 months.
Yeah, and the other part to it as well, to give you an idea, the suburb of Mount Barker, prior to COVID, it was sort of sitting around about 6% annual growth. From COVID, it's now sitting between 10 to 16%. So the same people were waiting before something to happen. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to slow down.
If you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, you look at what's good dad debt, what's an investment, and the reality is the house that you live in is not an investment. And I think too much the Australian dream is about owning a home, but also that's an investment. And the reality is it's not really an investment. It's where you have to live. It's where you're raising a family. So in reality, it doesn't really matter what it's worth. What matters is this the home that I want to live in and raise my family in versus renting? And that's really the big decision. Do I want to rent or do I want to own my own home?
Yeah, and that's also a good point because someone can just get their foot in the door and there's a certain bank out there just built for that sort of process. Get your foot in the door, build the home and then refinance because then you've got more of an option to get also a better interest rate or make a decision, do you sell the home or rent it out to get that next home?
Again, really good point, Robbie. So circling back to what we spoke about is the home loan guarantor scheme is a really great concept to help people get in and minimise some of those costs and that entry point. And in South Australia, we're very lucky. We've got Homestart. What's your understanding of Homestart, Rob?
Again, like I said, it's built for first home buyers to help them get their foot in the door. Yes, they're a little bit more of a higher interest rate than most banks would be, but the idea is to assist you getting into your first home.
Well, so for those that don't know, Homestart is a financial institution and we only have it in South Australia. So we're actually quite lucky in South Australia to have this product. I've been working with that product for close to 10 years now and I've been fortunate to see the impact and the change that it's had in people's lives where they're low income earners, low deposit, really haven't even thought about the possibilities of getting into their home and they've been able to do it. And so for me, watching people's journeys of being able to get in using this product has been phenomenal. And we are very fortunate to have that product here. So for those that don't know about Homestart is government funded. It purely exists only for first home buyers and its products are geared purely to helping first home buyers get into the market and that's what it exists for. It's not meant to be a long-term solution and so their role in the marketplace is to do things like low deposits. So you can get in as low as 10k deposit, Rob, which is phenomenal. No repayments while you're building, no lender's mortgage insurance. So it's, yes, the interest rate might be a little bit higher, but all these other things, when you weigh it up, the ability to get in today, that extra 1 or 2% you're paying in interest is really offset in the ability to get into that market sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, a lot of people get scared of seeing that big interest rate or the mortgage repayment, but it's also not seeing the end result. Actually, people have gone through that process and where they're at today.
I don't flip that on its head, right? I know some investors that are getting into deals and paying 10, 11, 12% to get into the deal. Because as an investor, you're not looking at the cost of the money to get into the deal. You're looking at, hey, what's the difference between me getting into the deal or not getting into the deal? And I have to pay a little bit more money to get into the deal, then that's the difference between me earning money or not. And I think sometimes first-time buyers look too much into the interest rate and that sort of almost stops them from getting into the market, whereas that extra 1 or 2% that you pay to get into the market today, if you got in 4 years ago and paid 2 extra percent, how much is your money worth today because you got in, right? So sometimes focusing on interest rate alone is only looking at one part of the puzzle. We need to look at the whole part of the puzzle. Absolutely.
Where do you see Adelaide's market in the next 12 months?
Yeah, Robbie, I think that's always a tough question when we're trying to predict. Everyone wants to be a predictor, or everyone has an opinion on things, and we can always have those robust conversations. And I think that's really important when we're thinking about what's the future of the market, is to be very cautious about what we say and what we predict. But if you look at most people, there is sort of forecasted growth of say 5 to 10% for maybe the next 12 to 24 months. Things can change really quickly. I think only 2 months ago, like I said, 1st of October, we had this home loan guarantor scheme, which was an issue that sort of triggered the market. There may be an event in the future that may trigger it the opposite way. So we always need to be cautious about making predictions. But at the moment, you would say the next 12 to 24 months is still a robust market for sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
If you're a first home buyer walking in today's market, what would be the best thing you'd do?
The best thing that I would do, first time buyer. Well, I always like to take it back to a process. So whenever I'm making decisions, I would like to keep it sort of as simple as I can. So for me, I would go back to my 3-step process.
Yep.
So step 1, go and see a broker. Maybe you need to see 2 or 3 brokers. Understand how much can I borrow, how much deposit do I need. So the first thing is, what can I borrow, what can I do, and what do I need to do? Really understand that. Once you've understand that, if the indicators are that you can do something, then the next bit for me would be to get into the marketplace and start to look at speaking to some agents, speaking to some land people, speaking to some building consultants, and try to work out what can I do with my money. And if the indicators are that you can do something, then I would start to explore that. If the market indicators are that you can't do anything, then what my sort of feedback would be, what do I need to do to get myself in a position to be able to buy? Absolutely. That's probably where I would start.
Beautiful. Perfect.
How about you, Robbie? You obviously got your first home. You're looking at maybe doing an investment home. So we moved from first home buyer, you got over that. Now you've got your first one, you've had it for a little while, you're starting to look at investments. So as probably what I would call an early investor, what are some of the things you're looking at to try and make the investment decisions in this market?
For me, so looking for investment opportunity is one thing I'm doing at the moment. To give you an idea, I'm more looking for a place that's got to give me the growth as well. And what I mean by that is that I'm not looking for a suburb that's full of opportunity of land, because it's not what I want to fit into. I want to find a place that's sort of going to help me get the growth because there's no land available. I'll give you an idea, someone that wants to invest in the city, well, the growth is going to be better than someone further out in a regional area where there's opportunities for land.
Right. So for you, is there any hotspots or any for first-time buyers or first-time investors looking to get into the market? What are some areas that you've been considering for your own portfolio?
For me, a few opportunities. I guess Murray Bridge I've been looking at. Yeah. I know there's a region where, like I said before, it's not, but there's opportunities out there. Mount Barker has also been great as well. Again, it gone against what I just said. But for me, I'm looking more of the north, like Andrews Farm, a suburb where there's 2 developments have almost finished. What that means, once that's finished, there's going to be no more land.
Right, so you're looking at the land availability and that there may be not as much in St Andrews. So if you're looking at that particular suburb, there's not going to be much more land released. Pretty interesting. Good point. I think for me with investing, I always take it back to the principles of anything. So for me, it's always looking at the deal. So what's it going to cost me? What's my intention? Do I want to hold it? Do I want to flick it on? And then trying to forecast the next 12 months out. That's how I sort of look at things for me for investing. But there are, I think, harder or fewer opportunities in this market. So I think you have to be more diligent and do a little bit more homework in this market than you would probably in a market that has more opportunities.